I'd like to invite anyone young or young at heart to come to the front if you'd like to do so and see the screen. There's some lily pads here on the floor, and there's lots of open seats. When you think of Unitarian Universalism, what symbol comes to mind? The flaming chalice, yes. And what does that symbol tell us? What does it mean for us in our faith? A light of hope. It's a good answer. What else? The light of truth. Sometimes we say the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of commitment. But some of you may know how the chalice came to be our symbol. It started as a two-dimensional stamp on papers of the Unitarian Service Committee, which was our humanitarian aid branch of our faith during World War II. It was designed by a refugee and artist, Hans Deutsch. And it was put on those papers coming out of the Unitarian Service Committee to make it look more official. It's true. And then it was adopted by the American Unitarian Association as their logo right after the war. And then in 1961, when the two faiths, Unitarianism and Universalism, merged, this new version of the chalice with the two interlocking circles came to be, encircling the flame. So you might have heard this story before, but how many of you know how we got from that two-dimensional logo on a piece of paper to the three-dimensional object that we use in our worship service? When did that happen? It's hard to pin it down, actually. But Susan Ritchie, who's a UU historian, did some digging and found that how the flaming chalice that we use in our worship service came to be is from all of you. Well, not you, actually, you, but the religious education program. So in the 1970s, the teachers would talk about the chalice and how it came to be, and then you all would make some chalices with some clay or different materials, and then somehow that came to be an object that we use in our worship services around the 1980s, early 1980s. So that's the story of the chalice as an object of ritual in our worship. But what about this chalice? What is the story of this chalice? Let me tell you, it was hard to track it down. Such an important object in our faith community, and I couldn't find anyone who knew the story of when did this first appear in our worship services. I talked to people that have been here at the time, artists and people that knew the artist who created it. It was Rosemary Zwick, a member of our church who has died, who was an amazing artist. She worked in clay and paint. She's the one who created the mural in room 3, that beautiful, colorful mural, and the mosaic on the doorway when you enter the building was created by Rosemary Zwick, and she created this chalice, but I could not find when it was first introduced. I looked through the archives, I'm looking through old orders of service, and we save these pieces of paper that we have every Sunday? We save a copy of it for years and years and years and years. We have these archives. So I'm looking through all of these. Linda LaPlante helped me narrow down the time frame, and I finally found it. It was Christmas Eve, 1982, when this chalice was first lit in our service. And there's a little paragraph in that order of service that says, "The chalice being used this evening is the work of Rosemary Zwick. Around its base are the words of our covenant. It is part of a project for enhancing our worship space to be finished for the coming year." So Rosemary was a part of a committee, for that is the origin story of all things Unitarian Universalist. Starts in a committee. She was part of a committee that was about making this space more warm and inviting. Before that, these banners weren't here. And this beautiful cut paper wall hanging wasn't there. These tables were not here. This pulpit wasn't here. Rob Geiger made this pulpit and these tables. And this chancel, this stage, wasn't even there. It was just a bare, it's kind of a big concrete box. And it was kind of cold. So Rosemary was a part of this committee to make this space more beautiful and inviting. So the chalice is introduced Christmas Eve 1982, and then it disappears. It's not in there again. We didn't use it again. It wasn't a regular part of our service until 1985, when we honored and celebrated Carolyn Buss, our first minister for religious education. You can see, I know it's hard to see this picture. It's a photo of a photo. But you can see the chalice on the right-hand side in front of our old pulpit, which was more of like a podium. See how tall the candle was? So it's important for us to, you may be bored by this. I find it so fast. I'm such a UCE history nerd, but it's important for us to honor this chalice, because today we dedicate a new chalice, this Tree of Life chalice that has been brought to us by the Denominational Affairs Committee and the Endowment Committee. It came to us because we were able to have it as a roving chalice. The chalice that is used in our General Assembly, our annual meeting, was here about a year and a half ago, and we thought, this is something that we'd like to connect us to our larger faith. And so we honor this chalice that has served us so well for so long, and we want to protect it and preserve it. So we're going to find a special place for it. So, with gratitude, I'd like to call forward those that are participating in this part of our service. With gratitude, we honor this chalice created by Rosemary Zwick with skill and care. We have treasured and will continue to honor this piece of art as we find a place to display and keep it. And now we dedicate this new chalice, which connects us to the larger Unitarian Universalist movement, a Tree of Life chalice used at the UUA General Assembly. This is a replica of that. We were able to have the actual GA chalice with us for service as it made its way to Kansas City in 2018, and thanks to Brian Nielsen, to the Denominational Affairs team and the Endowment Committee, we were able to purchase it, and it is at long last here. So we will now transfer the flame of the first chalice that this congregation has known, which has carried the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of commitment for nearly 35 years, to our new Tree of Life chalice. And now we will extinguish the flame of this chalice created by Rosemary Zwick in 1982 and dedicated on Christmas Eve of that year. We hold its flame, and I want to honor and recognize this is Rosemary's daughter, who is with us today. I'm so glad to be with us. May it continue to serve as a bright reminder illuminating the power of our shared covenant. Thank you. And now the children, kindergarten through 8th grade, may follow their leaders to the lower level for religious education as we sing This Little Light of Mine.